I promised my next Kamen Rider review was going older, and, you can't get much older than the Showa era. Then again, this is a new toy, so I lied. This is SIC Kamen Rider Stronger and Tackle. This is my first review of the Super Imaginative Chogokin line, and what makes it different than your standard figure art? Well, size. This is the first thing you notice. Standard Decade here stands a good 2 inches, 2.5 inches shorter than Stronger does. So you've got an enormous figure compared to a figure art. You also have style. SIC is known for super exaggerated, super teched out designs of standard Kamen Riders. So for those who don't know what Stronger normally looks like, this is he. Kamen Rider Stronger's from the Showa era, the original series of Kamen Riders from the 70s and 80s, and thus his design, fairly simple. You've got the big S, the sunburst on his belt, few mid-colors there on his belly, some design lines, very simple, very basic, but not that that's a bad thing. Moving to SIC, the level of detailing is ridiculous. Now, since I've got 2 toys to review, I'm going to kind of rush through them, so we will start with Stronger by himself. The toy packs a lot of fine detailing, getting across the idea of Stronger's design aesthetic, cybernetics, and electricity. You can see a lot of that, especially in the chest. Now, a lot of the detailing here is in panel lining, some of it being a little bit asymmetrical. You can see little design details like rivets and panel lines on one side, not on the other. It gives them kind of a patchwork feel, and since this guy was basically built in Shocker's garage, or Black Satan's garage, it gets hard to keep him straight sometimes, he really does have a lot going on for him that looks pretty unique. You got big screws hanging off in the back, ones that don't involve actually holding the toy together, though those can also be seen. Helps them blend in a weird way. You also have a lot of translucent plastic showing detailing underneath, giving him a great level of depth. The translucent plastic was also used on his belt to give that sunburst design a little bit more flair, shining in the light. Also, the designs on the side have also been done in 2 or 3 different shades of translucent plastic, which is a great little design touch. And again, lots of heavy metal design work on the belt, where it was normal flat white on the original. You can also see a lot of those little nuts and rivets all the way through the lines that go through his arms and his feet. Very cybernetic in appearance, as well as things like this. It's not just a plain white boot anymore. Lots of little lines. I can't tell if this guy was supposed to be a cyborg or if they were just going with the whole electricity thing. There's also a lot of fine paintwork involved in this toy. You can see that little etching of gold all the way through his horns and crest. Also, the muffler. There's a lot of little airbrush detailing here, giving it a sense of depth and either a little dust or a little shadow, depending on how you look at it. Either way, it adds a lot of very appreciated detail to what is otherwise a pretty simple piece. The sticking point for SICs for me is articulation, because they're not meant for the fighting poses that a figure art can get into. Now, in the shoulders, it's fine. You've got a full range of motion, bicep swivel, double-jointed elbows, as well as double-jointed wrists. So you've got normal stuff there. You've also got the torso joint. Stronger has a little bit of waist rotation, but not a whole lot. Kind of restricted by how his midsection is shaped. Where the articulation starts to lose me is the hips. Because of the way this toy is designed, with a little bit of a skirt here for a realistic appearance, he doesn't quite have the range of motion that a figure art would have. So, kick poses are out of the question, though I don't know if there is a display stand that could actually hold something as heavy as this one. I'm sure there is, so please, someone feel free to prove me wrong. You get the double-jointed knees. You also get the ankle joint that moves back and forth, left to right, and the toe joint, so all of that's intact. He's really meant for static poses, just to look really nice on your shelf. This isn't something you'd play with as roughly as, say, your standard figure art or whatever generic line of action figures they're producing that year for Kamen Rider. Now, the big issue with this figure, neck articulation. For Kamen Riders, I feel neck articulation is vital because it adds a lot of character to them. Not so much on this one. You get a tiny bit of rotation, nothing up and down, back and forth. That is because this one, because of that electricity thing I was talking about, gets a gimmick. You can see there's a little button in the back that actually presses down itself. You press it down, it locks in place, and the chest and the eyes light up bright. Two different colors, so that's commendable. But because of that wiring, yeah, unfortunately that does remove the neck articulation, which is unfortunate because I really think they could have found a way around that. And anyone who knows me knows what I think of gimmicks that sacrifice basic function. But overall, you've got a really nice update to a classic character. Stronger being one of my favorites, I really like seeing him in a brand new style. And yeah, it is mostly meant for poses, but he's got enough jointage and articulation as well as enough design options that you can really get away with posing him any way you want as long as he can stand up. So as long as you don't get too crazy, he should be fine. He never had weapons though, so you're going to have to settle for an array of hands for his accessories. Aside from the two fists, you get chopping hands, which can also be used for poses. You've also got fake grabbing hands because he doesn't have anything to grab. You also get one with two fingers up for his signature pose that he did in the opening of each episode. Pretty simple, very easy. There's no ball jointing in the wrists. It's just peg out, peg in, and pose away. So that's Stronger. We're not quite done with him, but first, let's meet his partner. Electro Wave Human Tackle. This was the first ever female Kamen Rider hero. She's technically not a Kamen Rider, but that's mostly because in the 70s, Kamen Riders couldn't be girls. Nah. This is probably, I'm pretty sure this is her first real action figure, so I really do want to go into this a little bit more. You can see she's got a lot of the same cybernetic detailings going on, a lot of the little rivets, and a lot of the heavy metal look that the same kind of Stronger had. Even up here in the sleeves and arms, you can tell she's got a lot of little nuts and screws that look like it's holding her armor together. And what armor it is. You can also see there's a lot of translucent work here in the head as well. You can see her eyes through the lenses, which is a really nice touch, considering this was just a plain black mask in the show. Little painted detailing just so you can see her lip a little better. And as far as depth and translucent plastic goes, really wanted to see if I could show this off. See? That's a gear. All these little ladybug spots have gears that you can see through the plastic. It's a little hard to get on camera, unfortunately, but it adds a ton of depth and shows how many levels of detail went into just producing the helmet. You can see she's got also a lot of little panel lines, same as Stronger. The boots, not quite as ridiculous in design, but still functioning. You've got a ton of detail working all over this toy. It really adds a ton of character to her. Makes her look really good. But the real question, articulation, how is it? Well, same with Stronger. You've got full shoulders, you've got the bicep, double jointed elbows and the wrist. Same problem with the hips, though she doesn't feel quite as restricted, which is kind of weird considering she's the one with the skirt. Double jointed knees again, though on mine this knee's a little wonky. One side won't bend up, unfortunately. It's just cemented there in place. One thing about SIC, because of the way it's painted, a few of the joints could be locked up right out of the box. But, just give it a hard enough go and they'll probably come loose, or you'll be out a $70 toy. Most likely, no. It's just the paint getting stuck. That's the one thing I wanted to point out. A lot of the paintwork on this, it's not nearly as smooth or consistent as it is on a Figuart. It produces a much more natural look, I would say, and it really sets it apart from the armor sections, which are usually metallic. The nice thing on an SIC, you can tell what's supposed to be fabric and what's supposed to be metal, which really helps out the design aesthetic that they're going for. Okay, back to articulation. She's got the torso joint. No waist joint. I think her girlish figure just doesn't allow it. But we don't care because her neck fully works. You've got a ball joint in the torso as well as a rotation joint just at the top of the neck. So you can get a lot of expression out of her that you couldn't get out of Stronger, which kind of makes her a superior action figure. She doesn't have that gimmick holding her back. Now again, you don't have accessories, so you gotta go with what you have, which are extra hands. Just remove her hand. She has the exact same hands Stronger does. You've got chopping / posing hands. You've got fakey grip holding hands. Well, actually that's the chopping hand. Kind of obvious now. And you've got the same signature posing hand, which I'll go ahead and stick onto her. Exact same. No big surprises there. She does have an extra gimmick, though, that I am going to show off. I'll zoom in on her head, which really upgraded handlebars instead of that ladybug antenna that the original had. She has something that never appeared in the show, and I think it's just the designers saying, okay, we're sick of pretending she's not a Kamen Rider, so let's just make sure she looks like one completely. You can see I'm pulling off the sides of her helmet. You plug into these little square pegs, so there's no way of actually mixing them up. And removing the mask by pulling down. Now you can see her completely revealed face. She looks a little weird without the size of her head. And her eyes are painted off to the side. I don't know if that's just a little screw up on mine, or if she's just meant to be looking to her right a little bit. Well, either way, she comes with this, an extra mask accessory. And there you go. Now, fully fledged Kamen Rider style head, completely covered face mask. It does actually change the appearance quite a bit. I mean, this is Tackle. She's not supposed to ever look like this, so the fact that the toy designers included it really makes me happy. I mean, it's a nice little touch to include. I mean, considering she doesn't really have all that much else she could do. No weapons, no accessories, no super form, nothing like that. Oh, speaking of which, we've got one more thing to show off on her partner, Stronger, but she has to kind of die first, so I'm going to go snap her neck now. Behold, Kamen Rider Stronger, charge up! Now this was the first Kamen Rider ever to have a super mode of any kind, long before it became popular in the modern series. And being a 70s upgrade form, that's pretty basic here. You can see all they really did was, paint some extra silver stripes on him and change the color of his horn. Not really a whole lot going on. In fact, the toy pretty much just gave you duplicates of each part with some extra paint job. Now, it's pretty simple. These things pull off pretty easily, and the chest just kind of pulls off straight away. The face does as well. And I'll go ahead and show this to you so you can see the underlying detail. The black Stronger S stylized like a lightning bolt. Again, they went nuts with this. And you can see a ton of that asymmetrical circuitry and engineering underneath. Far easier to see the light up S here. So it's a nice little touch considering this is the first time that a Kamen Rider had a super form, and since he doesn't have any other accessories, it was a nice thing to include. Now, this is where I really kind of wish that they had gone overboard, as SIC tends to do. I really wish they had done something more with a super mode instead of just, giving us different colored parts. I mean, today, super modes go completely insane with the original design and just take it to the 9th level. Stronger, well, it's pretty much the same as it was back in the day, which is a boon as well as a missed opportunity, I feel. But it is still a great little addition, since it does add a lot more flavor and some alternate appearances to the toy. So it keeps you from getting bored with it, even if it can't produce any crazy martial arts poses. Unfortunately, because he's so top-heavy, he's got some balance issues. Nothing too bad. I mean, it's nothing that figures haven't experienced before, The only real flaw I find, his muffler doesn't peg in very well. Now, that could just be on mine, but it kind of fell off a couple times just during the recording of this review, so, you know, as always, mileage may vary on these flaws. Overall, this is a set I'm really happy with. I might be biased as a big fan of Stronger, but I really think it still makes for a solid action figure set. Despite some flaws, this set just might be worth it just to have the only really good tackle figure that's out there. This one came from HobbyLink Japan, and of course, I thank them very much for the support. And you can get yours there too. Everyone asks me, where do I get this stuff? I link it below in the description. It's not hard to find. But if you really want this one, this is a decent set to start with. It doesn't go so overboard as, like, oh, I don't know, their version of Decade. Ugh. God, I had to remind myself, didn't I? So this one was for the old school fans. I have no idea what I'm going to do next, so just tune in. I have no idea what's going to spur an idea next.